ज्ञानानन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवम् श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगे राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यस्य कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome back to the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu discussion, the Nectar of Devotion summary study. We have discussed the 64 Angas scriptural proofs. Then some additional topics is what Rupa Goswami has been discussing, that what are not other limbs of bhakti. So yesterday we saw how Varnashram is not a limb of bhakti. And we saw some confidential things about Varnashram. Why then Parashar is saying, Varnashram acharata, so that is those who don't have adhikar for bhakti, for them it is meant. But those who have got faith in bhakti, they can directly practice bhakti. So, and it is meant for one to become detached and develop faith in bhakti ultimately. So ultimately Varnashram can lead to pure devotional service. And then he explains how Gyan and Vairagya are not the limbs of bhakti. So yesterday we discussed these important topics after end of the discussion of the limbs of bhakti. Further, Rupa Goswami, now we are already entering the 14th chapter. Gyan and Vairagya are not the limbs of bhakti. I told you Prabhupada very briefly discusses them, but we are going in a little more detail with the verse and Jiva Goswami's commentary. So now, yesterday we finished up till here. Varnashram, Gyan and Vairagya are not the limbs of bhakti. So today, further the next verse, we are going to take up. The goals of Gyan, Vairagya and motor processes are achieved by bhakti alone. So what does Rupa Goswami say in the next verse of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu? Very interesting it is. Then how are Gyan and Vairagya achieved by the devotee? Ruchim udvahatas tatra janasya bhajane hare visheshu garishtopi ragaprayo viliyate. If a person, Tatra Janasya, has a taste for worshipping the Lord, Hare Bhajane Ruchim Udvata. If he has a taste for worshipping the Lord, even if he has strong material attractions, mark this point, strong material attraction, Vishaya Garishtopi. Garishta means बहुत गाढ़ा है ऐसा ना, something we say in Hindi. Those attractions will be for the most part destroyed. Prayo viliyate. Praya means for the most part. Nashta prayesha padrishalak. How? During sadhana without resorting to Vairagya. So why the practice of sadhana bhakti without separately endeavoring for Vairagya? By the practice of sadhana bhakti, they will be destroyed. So that's what here very interesting verse Rupa Goswami is making. Okay, Jiva Goswami's commentary. Previously, Vairagya was condemned at the beginning of Bhakti because it causes the heart to become hard. We saw Hridaya Katinya becomes, because of harsh arguments and repeated toleration of suffering, the heart becomes hard. We have seen that. However, if Vairagya is forbidden, the person practicing Bhakti will be filled with material desires, and having such desires is against the scriptures, for it is said in the Vishnu Puran. So if Vairagya is forbidden now, and the person is practicing Bhakti and he is filled with material desires, these material desires are not favorable for devotion. And the Vishnu Puran says, Vishaya Vishtachittasya Krishna Vesha Sudurata Varuni Diggatam Vastu Prajanendriyam Kimapnuyat. The person absorbed in material enjoyment. Vishaya Avishta Chittasya. Vishaya means sense objects. Avishta means absorbed, absorption. Chitta means the mind. Is far from being absorbed in Krishna. Krishna Avesha Sudurata. If we are Vishaya Avishta, then we cannot be Krishna Avishta. And the analogy is given what? How can a person going east, Kim Varuni Diggatam, catch Apnuyat, an object, Vastu, moving to the west? Naindriyam Brajan. So this is the example given. So this is what the scriptures also say. So then how in the Bhakti practice Vairagya is accomplished? This is answered by Jiva Goswami is putting this in his commentary. To answer this dilemma, the author supplies the verse. So to answer this, Rupa Goswami is saying this, that with the taste in Bhakti, automatically Vairagya will come and there is no separate endeavor required. So that's what Jiva Goswami has said in the verse. Having a taste for Bhakti will destroy the attachment to material objects. So if you develop a taste for Bhakti, and then the material attractions or objects by which we have attachment will be destroyed. Thus, the hardness of heart caused by practice of Vairagya will not take place, and still detachment will manifest. So in practice of Jnana, there is Hridaya Katinya, the hardness of the heart will happen. But in Bhakti, Vairagya will happen, detachment will happen. At the same time, there will be no hardness of the heart, but there will be softness of the heart. At the stage of Ruchi or taste for Bhakti, material attraction will be destroyed for the most part. So when does this happen? I wanted to ask this question to you all, but it came in the slide. So if you have a question that, I have attraction for material objects, I'm practicing devotion, when will this attraction come down? So the answer is there at the stage of Ruchi. So we should have a very clear understanding at what stage, what level of devotion will manifest. So knowing that also gives us hope. Oh, so far I have to go and I have to endeavor. Otherwise, we'll be in false hope sometimes. So it is mentioned that at the stage of bhajan kriya, uh, we have a lot of attraction for material world, and the attraction for Krishna is, it's not much. We have very little attraction for Krishna, but a lot of attraction for the material world in the stage of bhajan kriya, shraddha, sadhu, sangha, bhajan kriya. As we practice very meticulously and seriously the bhajan kriya, uh, with the anarth nivritti happening, when one reaches the stage of nishtha, His Holiness Bhanu Swami Maharaj mentions that at the stage of nishtha, one is 50% attracted to Krishna, 50% attracted to Maya. At the stage of ruchi, it is more, maybe 75%, because nashta prayeshu bhadreshu, it is mentioned in the Bhagavatam verse. Every day we recite while beginning the Bhagavatam. Prayeshu bhadreshu, 75%, we can say. So at the stage of asakti, maybe it is 85 or 90, I don't know, maybe distinction. So at the stage of bhava, the attraction is maybe 95 or 99%, some say, at the stage of bhava. And at the stage of prema, it is 100%. So here Jiva Goswami is giving a very clear understanding that at the stage of ruchi, pray, material attraction is not there. So what now as sadhakas we are practicing, we have a lot of attraction for material energy. And sometimes we fall prey to sense enjoyment. So what does Krishna in the Uddhav Gita says? Tato ma bhajata prita, shraddhalu dhrida nishaya. So you continue practicing devotional service, prita, shraddhalu dhrida nishaya, with determination. So this is what a beautiful instruction. We saw that verses also when we are studying sadhana bhakti. So it's very important that we understand at which stage Vairagya will manifest. It will start manifesting at the stage of ruchi, nishtha, more in the stage of ruchi, more in the stage of asakti. In the Bhagavad Gita, there is one verse, I'll give a hint, in the 7th chapter where it mentions about asakti. Anyone knows that verse can raise their hands. There is one verse which speaks about asakti. Anyone knows? And I've given a hint. It is in the 7th chapter. Yes. Yes, Devendra Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. It is 7.1. Maya Sakta Manapartha.
Maya Sakta Manapartha. Maya Asakta Mana. Maya means unto me, Asakta Mana. One whose mind is attached to her. There he is giving the process how one can completely become attached. Yogam Yunjan Madashaya. Completely take it. Asamshayam. Without doubt. Samagram. Completely. Tata Gyashashi Tashmu. So here the knowledge what I'm giving. So the more one hears the knowledge of the Gita and the Bhagavatam and the Bhakti Shastri literatures, the more the mind will become attached to Krishna. Naturally, detachment will follow. So if our mind becomes attached to Krishna, we have attained perfection. Like the gopis, their mind is attached to Krishna. Even if they want to withdraw their mind away from Krishna, it's not possible. They sit in meditation trying to withdraw their mind away from Krishna. Whereas the yogis sit in meditation to attach the mind to the Paramatma, and they are not successful. But the gopis are sitting in meditation in order to withdraw their mind away from Krishna, and it is not possible because their mind is completely asakt to Krishna because of pure love. So Maya Sakta Manapartha. So if we can come to that stage, material attraction will be destroyed. So at the stage of Rishi, it is pride destroyed. That's what is meant. The meaning is that it will be completely destroyed with the maturation of bhakti. Now mark this again, maturation of bhakti. So the bhakti gets matured in these higher stages only, not in the stages when we are doing anishtita bhajan kriya. That is, we are still in bhajan kriya, which is not yet steady. unsteady devotional service, what we call. It is not mentioned, but understood from this statement that the taste for bhakti not only produces vairagya, but also gyan. The taste for bhakti not only produces vairagya, but also gyan. So which is the verse you can quote from the Bhagavatam for substantiating this statement of Jiva Goswami? Anyone can quote any verse from the Bhagavatam that bhakti produces both Gyan and Vairagya? Any other devotees? Anyone knows which is the verse? Yes, Devendra Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitah Janeti Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Yad Ahetukam.
Yes, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janeti Ashu. Janeti Ashu. Ashu very. Jnanam Tad Ahetukam. Janeshti Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Tad Ahetukam. So, this is the verse Jiva Goswami is quoting. Now, kindly note, I have also quoted this verse, Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janeti Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yad Ahetukam. Now, this is the translation given by Prabhupada. Prabhupada is translating in a different way, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is translating in a different way. There are reasons. By rendering devotional service under the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita, one immediately acquires Janeti Ashu, causeless knowledge, Jnanam Cha Yad Ahetukam, and detachment from the world, Vairagya. Now see how Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur translates this verse. Bhakti Yoga, dedicated to Lord Krishna, Vasudeva Bhagavati, endowed with special moods. So here Prayojita means endowed with special moods. Now, what is the meaning of endowed with special moods? Anyone can throw some idea, can guess at least. Endowed with special moods. What does it mean? Prayojita. What Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is translating. Anyone would like to try? Endowed with special moods. What does it mean? Just think about it and make a guess at least. Think about it. Endowed with special moods. What it might be. Anyone would like to try? You can type in the chat box or you can raise your hands. What does endowed with special moods mean? Yes, Mohan Rup Sham Prabhuji, you would like to try what it means?
You mean endowed with special moods, like the joy which we are experiencing in doing everything for Krishna?
Something specific you can come, quite general you're saying. What are the different moods you can practice bhakti? Anyone else? Devendra? Endowed with special moods?
Yeah, yes, bro. I think is it like in particular rasa, like to follow footsteps of devotees in particular rasa, the one particular rasa?
Yes. Endowed with special moods means bhakti which is practiced in dasya ras, sakya ras, vatsalya ras, or madhurya ras. So this is the meaning of prayojita. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur means. That means you know your rasa with Krishna. Sakya ras, bhakti alone. Particular rasas. Yeah, very nice. Okay. So it means that one who is endowed with special mood means, I am already practicing Raganu Bhakti and attained a particular mood of the Vrajvasis, that is Sakya ras or Vatsalya or Madhurya or Dasya. That means I have attained perfection. That is, I have attained Bhava Bhakti. So Prayojita means one has attained the Prayojan. Almost he has come to the end of Prayojan. So this bhakti means this bhakti is very exalted. Yes? So only at the stage of bhava, what happens? Quickly produces janeti ashu. What? Detachment, vairagya from material goals, and knowledge of the Lord devoid for the desire for liberation. Knowledge of the Lord, there is gyan, but devoid of liberation. Jnanam cha yad ahetukam. Ahetukam has been mentioned here because the Gyanis also have knowledge about Brahman, but they have this knowledge, they have a desire for liberation. There is some hetu, but bhakti is ahetukam. So this knowledge is the bhakti knowledge. The more one uh, reads Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrit, this is bhakti sambandhit gyan. And it doesn't mean that the more he reads, the more he desires for liberation. No, the more the devotion increases. So this kind of knowledge is called as Jnanam cha yad ahetukam. That's why, according to Vishwanath's Bhagavatam commentary, Jnanam ahetukam means knowledge without material motivations or without the desire for liberation. Whereas the Jnani's Jnana is with motivations because they want to attain liberation. So now my question to you all is, when does Vairagya manifest for sadhakas? At what stage? Anyone would like to answer after hearing this discussion? When does Vairagya manifest? Anyone would like to answer? Yes, Mohan Ruksham Prabhuji.
You only told now to Ruchi stage, no? The detachment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it starts manifesting with Ruchi because there is taste for spiritual objects. Then the taste for material objects comes down, and with asakti, it becomes stronger, the mind becomes stronger attached. At the stage of bhava, there is complete detachment from matter. There is complete vairagya. So it is progressive. All three are included. So sometimes devotees in their practice of sadhana bhakti, this has been my observation, they know and understand that, there is a lot of attraction for the material energy, although I'm practicing sadhana bhakti. And instead of, trying to go deep in their sadhana bhakti, they start trying to develop detachment by practicing austerities. This is not favorable for devotional service. Please understand this point. This is a simple point, but it is a very deep and subtle point. So the best is to increase our attachment to Krishna by performing Krishna conscious activities of hearing, chanting, by doing more devotional activities, by increasing our sadhana bhakti. Otherwise, in order to counteract the attraction for material energy, if you start battling with it, then you are actually, compromising on your sadhana bhakti. But best is to increase your sadhana bhakti, and with the fructification of the sadhana bhakti, naturally this will happen. Janeti ashu vairagyam will happen. Naturally it will happen. So we should remember this, and we should not, resort to vairagya prayas, too much of vairagya prayas. Now, in the next two verses, which are very famous verses, which Prabhupada many times quotes, what type of vairagya devotees practice in the Bhakti Path? So this is a very famous verse, and this has to be very clearly understood. So let us recite this verse. Anasaktasya vishayan yatharam upayunjita nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyam uchyate. The vairagya of that person who employs objects suitably for devotional development. Yata arham upayunjate. Employing objects in devotional development. Upayunjata. While remaining detached from them. Anasakta vishayan is said to be suitable for bhakti. Yukta vairagya muchate. the objects should be persistently related to Krishna. Nirbandha Krishna Sambandha. Now, this verse has to be clearly understood because this is, very much misutilized. This principle of Yukta Vairagya is very much misutilized by devotees in sense gratification. So let us first see Jiva Goswami's commentary on this, and then if there are any points, we'll take up. Now, what does Jiva Goswami say? With this verse, the author shows the type of Vairagya which is suitable for entering Bhakti, which was previously mentioned. So what is the type of Vairagya which is suitable for entering Bhakti? Yukta Vairagya. Initially, while entering the temple door of Bhakti, Gyan and Vairagya have little role. But once we get Bhakti, Gyan and Vairagya have no role. Just like, especially a mountaineer who is climbing the mountain, he uses various instruments like the hook, the rope, and, he has got those rods. So once he comes on the plateau, these instruments are of no use. He throws them. It's of no use. So similarly, once you come to the platform of Bhakti, these Gyan and Vairagya are not of much use. So what type of Vairagya is being practiced? Yukta Vairagya, which is suitable for entering Bhakti. Now, the Vairagya of a person employing Upayunjita. Upayunjita means employing. Yunjita means to engage or employ material objects. Now, please take a particular note here. We can employ material objects because material energy belongs to Krishna and we are using it in Krishna's service. The energy is being used in energetic service of the energetic. Only to the extent that they are favorable for his devotional development. Yata arham. And second, while being detached from material enjoyment, is suitable for bhakti. Yuktam. You have to be detached. So there are three things. One is you should be, those objects should be employed favorably for devotional development, and one should be detached from it. And the third thing is, in this there should be persistence, nirbandha, in relating to the objects to Krishna. So the object which you are going to employ should be incessantly or persistently used only in relation to Krishna, and we should be detached. So what are the three criteria in practicing Yukta Vairagya principle? Anyone would like to tell what are the three criteria? What are the three criteria? You can raise your hands. What are the three criteria? Anyone? No, you have to raise your hand. I would like to hear. Please don't type. Avoid typing anything on the chat box except for the audio. I would like to hear from the other devotees who are participating here. Otherwise, I'll have to ask the audience. Okay, Nitya Sevini Mataji, yes. What are the three criteria?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes.
Pranam. So the first one is the objects what we are using, it should be for the Krishna service.
Yeah, it should be favorable for Krishna service, favorable for our devotional development also.
Yes, yes.
First. Second,
the nirbandha, the persistence while using these objects towards the service of Krishna.
Yes, that object should be incessantly or persistently be used only in Krishna service. Then, third
one I forgot.
Third one is that we should be detached from that material object. Anasakta. Now, let us apply an example to understand this Yukta Vairagya principle. Now, all devotees know about Chamar, the yak tail, right? The yak tail can be used in Krishna service. Upayunjita, can be used in Krishna service, and it is favorable for our devotional development because by fanning the Lord is pleased, and our devotional development will happen. Yes, the yak tail. So it is upayunjitam. Then secondly, the yak tail, can it be used in some other purpose? It is only used by the pujari for the Lord service. So it is persistently always used in Krishna service. Nirbandha principle. Are you attached to the yak tail? No. So you are anasakta vishayan. Correct? So the yak tail or the charmer is a classic example of Yukta Vairagya principle to be employed. Now take the example of the mobile phone. Upayunjita will come to Aranam. Yes, this can be used in Krishna service for my devotional development, for preaching purpose and all. But are we anasakta? Then secondly, nirbandha. Are we persistently, exclusively going to use it only for Krishna purpose, or can we use it for our own sense? And there are chances that we might use it for our own sense gratification. So how much we should be careful? So we should see that there are objects, and all objects are actually can be used in Krishna service, but whether it is favorable for my devotional development or not favorable for my devotional development, that has to be evaluated very, very carefully. So sometimes we have car and we think, we will use it for Krishna service, but most of the time we use it for our own service. We say it is for Krishna service, but we use it for our own service. So like that, the mind is such a thing that it, what is devotional, it can turn it into sense gratification. So Yukta Vairagya principle is a very important principle. It has to be understood very well and applied in our devotional practices. In the name of Yukta Vairagya, we can end in sense gratification, and we can see for ourselves that are we anasakta vishaya? The first criteria only will not fit in. So that is why we have to be very, very careful as sadhakas in our practice. So this is a very important principle which Rupa Goswami is speaking about, Yukta Vairagya. Now, he speaks about another type of Vairagya which is practiced by the Gyanis, that is called as Falgu Vairagya. Prapanchikataya buddhya hari sambandhini vastuna mumukshubi parityaga vairagyam falgu katyate. Rejection, parityaga of things related to Krishna or Lord or to the Lord. Hari sambandhini vastuna. Everything in this universe is related to the Lord. So anything, rejection of things related to the Lord by persons desiring liberation, mumukshubi, mokshakami are called as mumukshubi, who think that these things are simply material objects. Prapanchikataya buddhya. Their intelligence is impure. They think these are prapanchik, these are material objects, is called useless vairagya. Falgu vairagya katyate. So now Rupa Goswami speaks about the opposite in this verse. Now, Jiva Goswami. One should also understand what type of vairagya is unsuitable or useless for bhakti. That is Falgu. Now this Falgu vairagya comes from the Falgu river. There is a river in the North India, I don't know where exactly, where you see on the surface it is sand, and you might think it is sand, you go inside and there is water inside. So similarly, the renunciation is external. You show external renunciation, but internally you are filled with material desires. You don't have that deep renunciation. So that is why it is called as Falgu Vairagya. The author thus speaks about Vairagya that is opposed to the Lord, which ends in offense. This Falgu Vairagya also ends in offense. How does it end in offense? Because Hari Sambandhini Vastu, useful in the service of the Lord, refers to things such as Lord's food remnants. So the Lord's food remnants are, directly the Lord's mercy. Rejection of objects related to the Lord is of two types: not asking for those objects related to the Lord, and rejecting them when offered. So when somebody you give Mahaprasad and he rejects it, हमको इसके ऊपर विश्वास नहीं है, so he commits an offense. I remember once, many years back in our temple, there is a very famous Gyani in North Karnataka, Falgu rivers in Gaya. There is a very famous Gyani who is very well known. In fact, he gives pravachan on Gita, and in the village, wherever he conducts these lectures, in the early morning times, at least 10,000 people come to hear him. So he's so well famous personality. So he had come to our temple because one devotee knew him, and he was very favorable. Wherever his lectures are there, he would allow us to distribute Prabhupada's Gita. So we had invited him to temple, and Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj personally, welcomed him, and Mahaprasad garland, he wanted to offer it. No, I don't accept anything, this, no honor and all, he was saying. So Maharaj said that this is Lord's prasad, please honor it. But he did not take. So this is what happens. Rejecting them when offered. So not asking for it and rejecting. So two types, these two ways we commit offense. One should understand that the second type of rejection becomes an offense. So the second, rejecting, becomes an offense, and not using the things, Hari Sambandhi Vastu, in the Lord's service, that is also not an offense, but it is not full utilization. Utility is the principle, as Prabhupada said. This is stated in Vishnu Yamala. What? That offense. Prasadagranam Vishnur Varjayet Vaishnava Sada. The Vaishnava should never refuse the prasad of Vishnu. This is quoted in Hari Bhakti Vilas. So now we have these three types of Vairagya. The two are quite well known. Yukta Vairagya, which is favorable in cultivation of devotional service. Falgu Vairagya, which is practiced by the Gyanis. There is another Vairagya which we are aware, Samshan Vairagya. When we go to the crematorium, when somebody leaves the body, suddenly we become, oh, how temporary this material world is. Everything is, everything will be finished with death. So like that, this kind of Samshan Vairagya manifest. And after one day or few hours, we are back into our sense gratification. So this is another Vairagya. Of course, there are different types of Vairagya also, Bhaktivinoda Thakur speaks. But in general, these are these three. Okay, any questions up till now, what we discussed? So we have discussed Yukta Vairagya and Falgu Vairagya. And now the next few topics are there, which are short topics, which will end Sadhana Bhakti series. Any questions, any clarifications anyone has? Okay, two questions. Yes, Vaishali Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu Dandavat Prana. Prabhu, I wanted to check if we see there is a lot of suffering in anyone's life, and if that devotee prays, I want to go back to Krishna, so that devotee is very well, means he is practicing his bhakti very nicely, but since there is so much suffering around him, if someone prays like that, I want to go back, or I don't want to. So what type of means is it that he is desiring for liberation because he is suffering too much, but he has equally the same amount of love you can see from the bhakti and the devotion he has. So how do we understand this? Means can we pray like that?
Basically, sadhakas at different levels in their devotional life have different levels of prayers. So sometimes the suffering is so much that, I'm not able to practice my bhakti. Then it is favorable to pray like that so that I can practice my bhakti. And somebody who's very advanced, uh, his level of devotion and his level of Krishna consciousness might be very high, and he might be so surrendered that, oh Lord, whatever you want, you can do to me. And although there is suffering, he's completely oblivious because he's absorbed internally in his Krishna consciousness. So he might not pray like that also in one sense. And we cannot ascertain in an individual case, whether this is mukti kam, whether there is a desire for that is between him and Krishna. So we should not go into it. But for our own self-evaluation, we can, check with ourselves. Moksha laguta krit, becoming free from the desire from mukti, only happens at the stage of bhava. At the stage of bhava only, when avidya is completely destroyed, then we can, we are completely free from this tinge of, even the subtlest tinge of, desire for liberation. What to speak of desire for liberation? Even the 4 types of liberation which are favorable to devotional service, that also a pure devotee rejects. Because his mind is attached to Govinda, and they are absorbed in prema for the Lord. And we see the classic example of Bhakti Tirth Maharaj. He had, terminal bone cancer, and there was extreme pain, which we can't even imagine. And he was so much absorbed in hearing Krishna Katha and experiencing ecstasy that there is nothing, more to be attained in this world. So although the external body was completely deteriorating and, it was going towards destruction, but he was so much absorbed in transcendental consciousness and ecstasy that it did not affect him much. So it depends on each individual's level of Krishna consciousness. So we cannot ascertain, so in a general sense, that's why I'm telling you this. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah. Madan Mohan Chaitanya Prabhuji has a question.
Prabhu,
Yes.
in this Vairagyam, you mentioned about Falgu. Is it same as monkey renunciation?
Yes. Markata Vairagya. Yes. It is called as Markata Vairagya by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Yes. Quite true. Very good. Nice point brought out. Markata Vairagya and Falgu Vairagya same. You are externally trying to be, say, show renounced, but internally you are not renounced. As the Falgu also suggests the same thing. Yeah. Any other questions about Yukta Vairagya? I hope the Yukta Vairagya principle has become clear now. This is not so easily understood by devotees. Even for many years, I could not really understand it. Yes, Prabhuji.
No, just to reinforce this message, Prabhuji, like what I've understood is like we should not endeavor for the Vairagya. Just increase your bhakti so that automatically the Vairagya happens. Right, Prabhuji?
Yes,
so
yes,
this is what
yes.
we should be focusing on that.
Yes, yes.
And then actually this is a good preaching point also. Many times when we see preach our members, they're like, you leave this, you leave that, they will not do this. And it become a burden for them. Instead of that, we give them extra services or extra, make them to do the extra, practices of devotion. Automatically, they will be leaving this. This is how we have been also under.
Yes, many devotees, emphasize the negative aspect, but the positive aspect has to be emphasized. Somehow, yena kena prakarena mana Krishna niveshayit. This is what Narada Muni has said. Somehow you have to, art is somehow how to engage this person so that his mind will slowly become attached to Krishna. So slowly, it has to happen progressively. And, it's abruptly nothing can happen.
Now, many people ask us, why you were a ISKCON devotee, they don't visit all other temples, you don't do other pujas, you don't do many tithis and all these things. They said that the fact is, we don't have time. We are engaged fully on our own activities and services and our own practices. So we are not doing it, right, Prabhuji?
Okay, fine. Now, okay. So the next verse of Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. Okay. Proktena laksheneva bhaktiradikritasya cha angatve sunirastepi nityadakil karmanam jnanasyadhyatmikasyapi vairagyasya cha falguna spashtatartam punarapi tad evedam nirakritam. The daily and the periodic duties of Varnashram. Nityadya Akhila Karmanam. In the Varnashram, there are the daily and the periodic duties, Nitya Karma and Naimetik Karma. And the impersonal aspect of Gyan, the obstructive portions of Karma and Gyan. Gyanasya Adhyatmikatasya api have already been rejected as Angas of Bhakti. Angatve Su Niraste. Rupa Goswami has already rejected them as Angas by using the stated definition of Uttam Bhakti obtained through Bhakti scripture. Bhaktir adhikritasya proktena lakshena eva. So by the definition of pure devotion, he has rejected Gyan Karamadi Anavritam. Already he has spoken about it initially only in the first wave. However, in order to make the point clear, Tad eva spashtatartham, the false type of Vairagya, the obstructive person, Vairagyasya cha Falguna, has been again rejected as Anga of Bhakti. Punarapidam Nirakritam. So it is again rejected here, but already he has done it, but again for emphasis he is rejecting here. Jiva Goswami. The two verses, 257-58, one is Yukt Vairagya and other is Falgu Vairagya, are connected. By using the definition of Bhakti, pure Bhakti, Gyan Karmadi Anavritam, mentioned in this book, Proktena Lakshanena, Karma with its daily and occasional duties and Gyan with impersonalism have already been rejected as Angas of Bhakti. They have already been indirectly rejected as Angas of Bhakti. That definition has been obtained from scriptures concerning Bhakti. Bhaktir Adhikritasya. Again, in order to make the point about pure Bhakti clear, there is another rejection, this time of Falgu Vairagya. So again, to emphasize about pure Bhakti, this karma, avritam, Falgu Vairagya has been rejected. Vishwanath Chakra Thakur, two verses are connected. By using the definition of pure Bhakti, Gyan Karmadi Anavritam, mentioned in this book, Proktena Lakshena, Karma with its daily and occasional duties and Gyan with impersonalism have already been rejected as Angas of Bhakti. This is practically the same what Jiva Goswami is also saying. That definition has been obtained from the scriptures concerning Bhakti. Same point. Again, this is the same point. In the phrase Gyan Karmadi Anavritam, the commentary explained that Adi referred to Vairag, Yoga, Sankhya and other processes. So you remember in the pure devotional service definition, Gyan Karma Adi. Adi means even Vairagya. Vairagya Prayas, Yoga Prayas, Sankhya Prayas. These are what? It should be Anavritam. So here Vairagya has been, especially the Falgu Vairagya has been rejected. Now another sub-theme which we'll be discussing is the other prominent practices which do not constitute the limbs of pure devotional service. What are the other prominent practices? Next verse of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. If you have any questions, you can always raise your hand in between also. Dhana Shishyadibir Dware Ya Bhaktir Upapadayate Viduratvat Uttamata Hanya Tasyascha Nangata. That Bhakti, Ya Bhakti, which is accomplished by dependence on wealth, followers or other objects. Dan Shishyadibir Dwarer Upapadate cannot be considered as an Anga of Uttama Bhakti. Na Angata, because it destroys the pure nature of that Bhakti. Tasya Uttamata Hanya. Hanya means it destroys. It destroys pure devotion. It is situated far away from Uttama Bhakti. Vidu Ratvat. Vidu means far away. Now let us see Jiva Goswami's commentary on this. In the phrase Gyan Karmadya Navritam, not covered by Gyan, Karma or other things includes lackness in execution of bhakti. Bhakti accomplished through wealth and followers indicates this negligence or inattentiveness. Such execution cannot be accepted as an anga of bhakti. Now Vishwanath Chandra Thakur. Among the angas of bhakti, wealth and other items are generally not needed for hearing and chanting. The excellence of bhakti is destroyed when it depends on wealth and followers. For instance, in deity worship, one person may feel that he cannot perform all the services for the deity at once by himself and thus depends on followers. Or, to have this Shravan Kirtan program, I need to raise these funds. Krishna is not interested in funds. Krishna is interested in how much you are going to focus your consciousness in hearing Bhagavan. Rest all, everything is secondary. So like that, these are simple things, but they can really be, especially because we are in this material world and we are very much attracted to wealth and material things. So these sometimes can become hindrances in our practice of Uttama Bhakti. However, this danger is not present in all angas of bhakti. In the 64 angas of bhakti, these dangers are not present, but these dangers are present in these three things: dhana, shishyadibir, and dependence on wealth, followers, and other objects. Oh, this object is not there, then I cannot do deity worship. Nothing like that. Krishna wants patram pushpam phalam toyam. That's it. That can please him. But sometimes we, get all these other things to use in Krishna's service, deity worship, but later on we want to use it for ourselves. So sometimes it can happen. Once in, if you remember Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he used to have huge diorama exhibitions in acres and acres of land through which he used to do preaching. And then there was one show where a Brahmana is using the Shaligram Shila to break walnuts. He thought, what is the use of this stone? Let me use it for breaking the walnuts and eating the walnuts. So sometimes if we too much depend on wealth or material objects, that can become hani for our bhakti. So that is the point. It is not present in all the angas, but some of these angas, it is present and it is being mentioned here. Okay. Now, next verse of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Visheshanatvam evesham samshravante adhikarinam vivekadini atos nisham apinangatvam uchyate. Discrimination and other material qualities. Vivek adini. Vivek means discrimination. Ato amisham api. That is the other material qualities. Cannot be considered as angas of Uttama Bhakti. Na angatam uchyate. Since on their own they take shelter. Esham sam shravanti. Of the excellent conditions of person practicing Uttama Bhakti. Adhikarinam vishesha natvam. So sometimes devotees have some material qualities by which they can do material skills very nicely. It doesn't mean that they are angas of bhakti, in fact. So just by practicing pure devotion, we should understand that all the saintly qualities will come. So sometimes we can mistake, devotees who have some material skills and they use those material skills in Krishna service, but they are not angas of bhakti. The real angas are these 64 angas. So that's why Rupa Goswami is making it clear. Discernment, that is viveka, and other qualities take shelter of the excellent conditions, visheshanatvam, of the devotees. Esham adhikarinam. So the devotees who are practicing pure devotion, they will use their right vivek of what is favorable for devotion, what is not favorable for devotion. Like that, Goswami says. Thus, discrimination and other qualities, Amisham, should not be considered angas. So they are not, angas of bhakti. Okay, there is one question. Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So, Prabhu, Yukta Vairagya also is not an anga of devotional service, right?
Yukta Vairagya is what we practice in order to accomplish bhakti. In order to accomplish bhakti.
Okay. So, in similar way, yesterday I had one question from yesterday's class actually regarding you said about Varnashram, the definition of Parashar Muni, who said if we perform Varnashram duties by keeping Lord Vishnu in the center, so we can attain liberation. So is it like similarly the Varnashram also is like Yukta Vairagya only when if it is kept in if Lord Vishnu is kept in the center? Like, is there any connection like that?
No. There is no such connection like that. Varnashram is those who are attached to their varna and their duties according to the varna and the ashram. And they are performing their duties according to their nature. The nature, what is their part of their subtle body, which we call as swabhava. There is swabhava, and then based on the swabhava, there is swakarma. And based on the swakarma, there is a swadharma. So Arjuna has a swabhava of a kshatriya. So he is attracted for military warfare. That is his swakarma. And he has to follow, the kshatriya dharma, the Kautilya Shastras or the Artha Shastras, like that. Those dharmas he has to follow. So Brahmana has a swabhava of a, intelligence, that he's an intellectual. That is his nature. So there is swabhava swakarma. He is naturally inclined to study scriptures. So then there is, the shastras which, direct him in that direction. Brahmanas have patan, yajan, Vedas, So based on the swabhava, there is a swakarma and there is a swadharma. So those are the natural way of progression for people in general who are in the varnashram. And it slowly purifies the heart and detaches one from material world. And when they come in touch with the pure devotee and develop faith in bhakti, they can take to devotional service and attain perfection. If they don't come in touch with pure devotional service, they will do their varnashram duties and as an offering to Vishnu. And by that also they can attain perfection. But the highest perfection by pure devotion, that is going to Golok Vrindavan, cannot happen by performing varnashram duties. That is why, if you see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he went to South India, especially Udupi, there he met the Tattvavadis there. And he asked Sadhyara Nirnay, what is the goal? Ultimately, the goal, he said, is to perform your varnashram duties and satisfy Vishnu. Then Mahaprabhu rejected it. So like that, Yukta Vairagya is a principle which is exclusive, given in the path of pure devotional service. Okay. Is it clear, Devendra Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhu, it is clear, but just one more doubt I got just now, as you said, Mahaprabhu's story. That shloka also comes in Bhagavatam, no, Prabhu. Atta Pumbit Sreshta Varnashrama Vibhaga.
Sorry. 1 second. Sorry.
Yeah. So just now I got one more question. When you mentioned Mahaprabhu, that Atta Pumbit Sreshta Varnashrama Vibhagasha Anushritasya Dharmasya Samsiddhir Haritoshnam. So that shloka also comes in Bhagavatam, no?
That shloka has to be understood in the flow of the verses of the Bhagavatam.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Once you understand the flow of the Bhagavatam, then you will get a right understanding. Because after this verse, it is Tasmad Ekena Manasa. Bhagavan Satvatam Patim Shotavya Kirtidavishya Smartavya Ichitam Vayam.
Yeah. Okay.
No, Tasmad ekena manasa Bhagwan Satvatam Patim Shotavya Kirtidavasya Dhayyasya Pujyasya Nityada is mentioned there. So that's why practice pure devotional service is there. So you'll have to see that verse. Okay.
Yeah, sure. Okay, bro. Thank you.
So any other questions anyone has? Okay. Fine. Now, further, next verse of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Krishnonmukham swayam yanti yama sauchadayashtata ityesham chana yukta swad bhaktya angatara patita. Basic rules of conduct. Yama, rules of cleanliness and other actions. Yama sauchadayashtata appear automatically in those who are extremely dedicated to Krishna. Mark this point here now, extremely dedicated to Krishna. Krishna mukham swayam yanti. Thus, they are not included as angas of bhakti. So these are also not included as angas of bhakti, like wash, taking bath, cleaning your teeth. They are not part of angas of bhakti. Itesham bhakti angatara patita na swat. Okay, let us see what Jiva Goswami says. By stating that Yama and Saucha automatically appear in the devotee, the author rejects them as angas of bhakti, actions that produce bhakti. So it's not that by cleaning your teeth, your bhakti will increase. They are not angas of bhakti. The rules of conduct, Yama, are as follows. Ahimsa satyam asteyam, asango rir, asanchaya, astikyam brahmacharyam cha, maunam stairyam, shamabhayam. Non-violence, ahimsa, truthfulness, not coveting or stealing the property of others, detachment, humility, freedom from possessiveness, asango hir, asanchaya. Trust in the principles of religion, celibacy, silence, steadiness, forgiveness, and fearlessness are the 12 primary disciplinary principles. This is spoken in the Uddhav Gita. Now Vishwanath Chakravarti, should the devotees in whom the good qualities do not appear on their own be considered to be actually non-devotees? Vishwanath Chakravarti raises a point that many devotees are practicing pure devotional service or sadhana bhakti since many years, and we see that there are no good qualities in them, as the Bhagavatam or the Chaitanya Charitamrita promises, that Kripalu, Dayalu, Adoshadarshi, like that. We don't see that. This verse answers. Krishnan Mukham means extremely dedicated to Krishna. Krishna Utkrishta Mukham. So those who are extremely dedicated to Krishna, all these cleanliness and all these good qualities manifest. For those persons extremely absorbed in Krishna, the good qualities spontaneously appear. So the good qualities, in fact, there are 26 qualities of a Vaishnava. And all these is in Sadhana Bhakti, we studied the first two characteristics of Kama Bhakti, that is Kleshagni and Shubhada. So with the practice of Sadhana Bhakti, with Anarth Nivritti happening, Kleshagni is over. Then Shubhada, in the form of these saintly qualities, start manifesting at the stage of Nishtha. Please remember that. Start manifesting at the stage of Nishtha. Now, the first reference to prove that, he gives the first reference from the Skanda Purana, Yata Skande. Etena hi adbhut vyada tvayahim sadayo guna hari bhakto pravrittaye na te suya paratapina. O hunter, Vyada is a hunter. These qualities such as non-violence, ete ahimsa adayo guna, are not astonishing. Nahi adbhuta. Because the persons who engage in devotion to the Lord, Hari Bhakto Pravritta Ye, will never cause affliction to others. Na te suya paratapina. Paratapina means they don't cause affliction to others. Parantapa is what Krishna addresses Arjuna as. Arjuna is called as Parantapa in the Paran tapayati iti parantapa. Paran means other. Tapayati means tap means giving heat or giving misery to them. Paran tapayati iti parantapa. So Arjuna is called as Parantapa because he can inflict misery upon the enemies. So those who practice Hari Bhakti, natural quality is not to cause affliction to others. These qualities manifest, it is said. Now, this might be the hunter, I don't know, it's from the Skanda Puran quotation. It might refer what is there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita of Mrigari, the hunter whom Narad Muni preached. Initially, he was killing half animals. And Narad Muni felt compassion. Why are you killing them half and not killing them completely? He said, when they are, when they are when they are extremely suffering because of that, misery, that misery gives me pain. That's what the hunter told. So when Narad Muni preached to him, and then he became a devotee, when Narad and Parvat Muni were about to come and take this devotee's darshan, this devotee offered dandavats, but he saw that there were ants. So with his cloth, slowly he moved the hands and then he offered dandavats. So that was the quality this hunter had developed. So maybe that is the verse which is being spoken here. I don't know. I'll have to find out in which context this verse is spoken. So that's why I said, oh hunter, these qualities as non-violence are not astonishing because persons who engage in devotion of Hari will never cause affliction to others. Tatreva. Tatreva, the second reference again is from the same Skanda Puran. Anta Shuddhir Bahi Shuddhi Tapa Shantyadayashtata Ami Guna Prapadyante Hare Seva Bikaminam. Internal and external purity. Anta Shuddhir Bahi Shuddhi. Austerity, sense control, peacefulness and other qualities. Tapa Shant Adayashtata. Take shelter. Ami Guna Prapadyante, of persons who desire to serve the Lord. Hari Seva Abhikamina. Now, Jiva Goswami says the word Adi in Santadaya, Shantadaya, refer to qualities such as truthfulness and seeing things with equal vision. Vishwanath Chakravarti says Abhikaminam means of those persons who have complete desire for service to the Lord. These good qualities on their own take shelter of the completely dedicated devotees. Again, you have to mark this point here. So these qualities are manifesting for those who are completely dedicated. Complete service for the Lord. So these qualities come and one should also endeavor, but it should come. Prabhupada made a famous statement, if you remember. You can know my disciples because they are gentlemen, he said. Gentleman means one who is externally clean and as well as internally is also clean. So that's what Prabhupada had spoken about. Okay. So about some other clarification regarding whether these yamas, rules are angas of bhakti. No, automatically they are practiced by those who are very extremely dedicated to Krishna. That's what Rupa Goswami says. Now the last theme is a very important theme, Ekanga and Anek Anga Bhakti. Now we saw that there are these 64 limbs. So whether I should practice one limb or two limbs or I should practice many limbs, on that Rupa Goswami throws some light. Let us see. Sa bhaktir ekamukanya anga shritanekangikatava swavasananusarena nishtata siddhi krit bhavet. Bhakti, sa bhakti, taking shelter of one principal anga, ek mukya anga shrita, or many angas, na ekangi kata va, according to one's desire, swa vasana anusarena, and practiced with steadiness. Now, please note this in this translation. Practiced with steadiness. brings about desired result. Bhava and prema. Siddha krit bhavi. That means, first thing we need to understand here is that when we are practicing as Vaidhi sadhakas, we should try to practice all the limbs of devotion. Slowly, as our practice matures, then our natural inclination, somebody might have more attraction to reading Bhagavatam and giving Bhagavad Katha. Somebody might develop more attraction for Gita. Somebody might develop attraction for Chaitanya Charitamrita. Somebody might have attraction for all three. Somebody might have attraction for more chanting and having more japa seminars. Somebody might have attraction for some others. But all this is when Swavasana Anusarena, according to one's desire, but with practiced with steadiness. That means one is at a very elevated platform that time. Whereas Vaidhi sadhakas who have still practicing unsteady devotional service, they should practice all the angas meticulously, follow all the rules and regulations, and then their nature or vasana anusar. Otherwise, a neophyte devotee will come, my nature is to, sit and do bhajan in one place. He's very, very new, and then if he starts doing that, it will be a chaos. So Vishwanath Chakra Thakur in his commentary, that bhakti in which one anga is performed as the principal one among hearing, chanting, and other angas, while other angas become secondary. It's not that he rejects; they take a lesser part, a lesser role, or that bhakti in which many angas are performed leads to perfection. You can perform one anga and others become secondary, you can attain perfection, or you can perform many angas and also attain perfection. The choice of one or many angas is according to one's preference. Swavasana anusarena. Now, neophytes who have joined devotion cannot say, oh, my preference is this. No. It is very clear, practiced with steadiness. Are you practicing with steadiness every day reading Bhagavatam? You have so much taste in studying Bhagavatam that without reading Bhagavatam, you will not feel like having prasadam. Your life is useless, you feel like that. No. So when our practices are in the unsteady stage, which is called as anishtita bhajan kriya, we have to practice all the limbs of bhakti. But when steadiness is attained, then we have this, we might take up to one anga or few angas and practice them intensely, because that is according to our mental inclination, as we say in English. Any questions regarding this? Yes, Mataji.
Prabhu, that discrimination point I did not understand. Means how that, what is, it is regarding what? Discrimination.
Okay. Discrimination and other qualities, material qualities, are not angas of bhakti. That is what is being mentioned by Rupa Goswami. Somebody might have some good qualities, material qualities, and those material qualities, if he's employing, it doesn't mean that he's practicing angas of bhakti. It's just because their material qualities is trying to employ in Krishna service. But with the practice of pure devotion, this vivek and the other good qualities will automatically manifest. Other devotional good qualities. Remember, there are two different things. Somebody is quite skilled in using these technology like computer, laptop, and all, and is using that in the service of Krishna. It's not that he's practicing an anga of bhakti there. Are you getting this point?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So sometimes we mistake that, and that's why Rupa Goswami is making it clear. Okay. So now the last verses. Tatra ekanga yatha grantantare. Grantantare is actually Padyavali. Padyavali is an anthology of verses composed by Rupa Goswami. So there he has spoken this verse. Shri Vishnu Shravane Parikshit Abhavat Vayasa Kirtane Prahlad Smarane Tadangri Bhajane Lakshmi Pritu Pujane Akrurastu Abhivandane Kapipatir Dase At Sakyarjune Sarvasmat Sarvasatma Nivedane Balir Abut Krishnarpita Isham Param. Parikshit is an example of hearing about the Lord. Shri Vishnu Shravane Parikshit Abhavat. And Sukdev is an example of chanting the glories of the Lord. Vayasaki Kirtani. Prahlad is an example of remembering the Lord. Prahlad Smarane. And Lakshmi is an example of serving the lotus feet of the Tad Angri Bhajane Lakshmi. Pritu is an example of performing deity worship to the Lord. Pritu Pujane. Akrur is an example of attaining perfection by offering prayers to the Lord. Akruras tu abhivandani. Hanuman is an example of service with that attitude of a servant of the Lord. Kapi patir dase. Arjuna is an example of friendship with the Lord. Ata sakya Arjuna. Bali is an example of offering the self to the Lord. Sarvasya atma nivedane bali. They achieve Krishna by following principally one anga. Esham Krishnarpita Param Abhut. So just by one of the angas, they attained perfection. Now, Anekanga example is being given. Anekanga Yata Navame. This is very, very famous. Save Mana Krishna Padara Vindayo Vacham Sivaikunda Gunanu Varnane Karo Harer Mandir Janadishu Shrutim Chakarachut Katsat Katodaya Mukundalinga Layadarsane Drisho Tadbhratya Gatra Sparshanga Sangamam Granam Chatatpad Saroja Saurabe Srimat Tulasya Rasanam Tadarpite Bhado Hare Kshetra Padanusarpane Shiro Rishikesh Padabhivandane Kamyam Chadase Natukam Kamayaya Yaduttama Shloka Janashraya Rati. Anekanga, here it is. Maharaj Amrish always engaged his mind in meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord. Save Mana Krishna Padara Vindayo. His words in describing the glories of the world. Vachamsi Vaikunta Gunanu Varnani. His hands in cleaning the Lord's temple. Karo Mandir. Karo means the hand. Karo means Dvivachan, both the hands. Harer Mandir Marjanadishu, cleaning the temple. His ears in hearing the words spoken by Krishna or about Krishna. Shrutim Chakar Achut Sat Katodaya. He engaged his eyes in seeing the deity of Krishna, Krishna's temple and Krishna's places like Mathura and Vrindavan. Mukunda Lingalaya Darshane Drisho. He engaged his sense of touch in touching the bodies of the Lord's devotees. Tad Bhrit Khatra Sparsh Anga Sangamam. He engaged his sense of smell in smelling the fragrance of Tulsi offered to the Lord. Granam Chatat Pad Saroja Saurabe Srimat Tulasya. And he engaged his tongue in tasting the Lord's prasad. Rasanam Tad Arpite. He engaged his legs in walking to the holy places and temples of Lord. Pado Hare Kshetra Padanu Sarpani. His head in bowing down before the Lord. Shiro Rishikesh Padabhivandani. And all his desires in serving the Lord 24 hours a day. Kamam Chadase. Indeed, Maharaj Amrish never desired anything for his own sense gratification. Na tu kamo kamaya. He engaged all his senses in devotional service in various engagements related to the Lord. This is the way to increase attachment for the Lord and become completely free from all material desires. Yatottama shloka janashraya rati. So this is Anekanga. He performed many limbs of devotional practice. You can see here. Prabhupada repeatedly in the second chapter, when it comes to Sita Pragya section, how to control the mind and senses, at least 3 times he repeats this verse. The entire 3 verses he quotes, and then he refers back, Savai Mana Krishna, Savai Mana Krishna. So for sadhakas, it is very, very important that we engage all our karmendriyas and gyanendriyas in sadhana bhakti in relationship to the Lord. The Lord is spiritual sense objects. The deity is a spiritual sense object for the eyes. The smell of the Lord's pushpa, which is offered to the Lord, which is called as nirmalya, smelling that purifies our antakaran. So all these, through this we purify our antakaran, and in sadhana bhakti it is very important that we practice this. Offering tulsi leaves to the lotus feet of the Lord, the leaves take on a special fragrance of his feet. Amrish engaged his nose in smelling that fragrance. In the phrase Mukunda Lingalaya Darshana, the word Linga means the deity form of the Lord. Amrish engaged his feet in walking to the holy places, Kshetra, such as Mathura, and to the Lord's temple. He engaged all his senses in these activities in such a way that the devotees of the Lord would be pleased. Yatha uttama shloka janashraya rati. Vishwanath Chakravarti. He engaged his eyes in seeing the forms of Mukunda, the temples of the Lord, the eternal dham such as Mathura and the Vaishnavas. We should see the Vaishnavas. That's how we purify the eyes. He engaged his nose in smelling the Lord's lotus feet with tulsi leaves on them, and in smelling the tulsi that has been offered to the lotus feet of the Lord. This means he had direct contact with the Lord's feet covered with tulsi. He engaged his tongue, rasanam, in tasting the food offered to the Lord, tadarpite. He engaged his feet in repeatedly going to the Lord's holy places, such as Mathura, and to the Lord's temple. He engaged his head in bowing down to the feet of the Lord and to the feet of the devotees. This is important, feet of the devotees also. He did all this in such a way that Rati, devoid of material attachments, found in the devotees of the Lord, Uttam Shlok Jana, such as Prahlad would appear. So there's a beautiful explanation, Uttam Shloka Jana Shaya Rati. Just like these Uttam Shlok Jana, those who are Jana means the devotees of Uttam Shlok, the Lord's name is Uttam Shlok, they have Rati. Let me also develop that kind of Rati without any material attachment. He did not perform the actions with the desire for material objects. So here's Anna Bilashita Shunya. Okay. Last verse of Sadhana Bhakti. Shastruktaya prabalaya tattan maryadanvita vaidi bhaktir yam kaishchan maryada marga uchyate. Some persons call kaishchan uchyate vaidi bhakti, yam vaidi bhakti, the path of rules, maryada marg, since it is bound by strong limitation of the rules. Prabalaya tat tad maryada anvita, mentioned in the scripture, Shashtutaya. So we know that the Vaidi Bhakti is to be practiced following the scriptural rules and regulations. So this Vaidi Sadhana Bhakti is also called as what? Maryada Marg, the Maryada Marg. Now after finishing the Vaidi Bhakti discussion, okay, there is a small explanation, I think, given by Jiva Goswami. If the rules spoken in the scriptures are prominent in one's devotional process, that immediately becomes the cause for performing bhakti. Thus, Vaidi Bhakti filled with rules, Maryada, is called Maryada Marg by some people. So that ends Vaidi Sadhana Bhakti. Practically, we have finished 14 chapters of Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. Now, we begin with Raghunaga Sadhana Bhakti, which is 1 to 270. 269 was this. And there are only 40 verses in Raghunaga Sadhana Bhakti. So we will quite briefly touch upon Raghunaga Sadhana Bhakti in the next few classes. Let us see, we might require around 8 classes for Raghunaga Sadhana Bhakti. and 4 classes for Bhava Bhakti and 2 classes for Prema Bhakti. So another till Feb end is my target to finish the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu syllabus. So any questions, any clarifications anyone has? So practically for devotees, this Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti is the most important. I will just share the screen. Yeah, this is Nectar of Devotion summary study of Srila Prabhupada. Dedication, preface, introduction, then chapter 1 begins. And we have finished up till here now. Now these 2 chapters are Raganuga Bhakti, and these 2 chapters are Bhava Bhakti, and this chapter is Prema Bhakti. If you want, I can show in the slide also, because we had done that initially. Yes, here it is. Yeah. So you can see the first wave was introduction and first chapter, Samanya Bhakti. Then from second chapter till 16 chapters is second wave, and within that there is Raganuga Bhakti. So Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti is still here. You can put this here, and Raganuga is these 2 chapters. So that is the second wave. The third wave is Bhava Bhakti, which is 2 chapters, and the fourth wave is Prema Bhakti, which is only 1 chapter. So that's how this is there. So 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 are the chapters remaining, which we will be covering in the next few classes. Okay, fine. Any other questions anyone has about Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti? Okay, then we will stop here. Shri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada